This is going to be our first tractor pickup with the truck. The Highlander is getting retired. I don't know, not really, but I have a truck now. And I've been working on this thing. I made a video about this on my other channel. But yeah, let's hop inside and I'll tell you what we're getting today. Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kyle and the channel's called Kyle by the Creek. We're getting ourselves a pretty nice Cub Cadet. This is about 10 minutes down the road, and a friend of mine said his neighbor has a tractor that he replaced and he's got a new one and he's just never going to use this other Cub Cadet, and he said he's tired of looking at his neighbor's tractor. They're good friends, so this is just kind of funny. But so the neighbor knows I'm coming over. I'm gonna go grab it. I'll show you what we have. I think it's gonna be a runner. I think it just needs minor work, but free tractor and pretty nice one. So yeah, I'm there. A little look inside the truck. CB radio. Just cleaned it up the other day, so we're looking pretty good in here. Got 2005 Chevy Silverado 1500. Yeah, just the typical ABS and parking brake light and airbag service light, but besides that, running pretty good. Did a lot of work to it, and it's definitely roadworthy now. All right, let's get going. All right, guys, I see it. No one was home, so I always feel weird, you know, like knocking on someone's door. Hey, I'm friends with your neighbor who says I can have your tractor. All right, Super LT 1550. Yeah, 50-inch mowing deck. Okay, well, I can't get the hood open. Maybe it's latched some way, but I think this has a 25 horsepower V-twin Briggs. How are we doing tire wise? We got air, guys. What do you think? This thing's just gonna start up? That'd be awesome. Yeah. No. All right, I do have a battery jumper, but I gotta get this hood open. Unless the battery's back here, but I doubt it. Yeah. Well, turns out I forgot my battery jumper. Yep. And I can't get the hood open. What are the chances I can push it to the street? That's not gonna be pretty. All right, it's a little darker. We're back with a jump pack. We're just gonna attach to the starter here. Oh, I smell gas and it's really old. Can't get the hood open. You ever seen anything like that? Kind of doubt we're gonna get this thing started, guys, and I got no one to help me. If you could only smell the fuel, it's old. This thing's been sitting. It opens like that. I've never seen that before. Okay, that's pretty cool. All right, let's I do have some carb spray. Hopefully this battery jumper will give me a little bit, but let me get the carb spray. Maybe we can get this thing started here. Okay, got some carb spray. kind of wants to do it. We do have fuel. Man, so close. Ether. I made it to the road. All right, well, my trailer's right around there. Let's see, maybe we could push it the rest of the way. Oh, it just died. It was actually sitting there trying to run. We got it, guys. I bottle fed it the whole way, but it was just starting to get a little bit of fuel. Yeah, I think this thing is pretty cool. A little out of breath. Yeah, I'm sure it needs a carb clean. Pretty sweet tractor though. one big strap in the front. That's all we're doing. Just a nice, easy, flat drive home. And we're in the shed the next day with the Super LT 1550. Let's get this fancy hood open here. And yeah, I dragged it into the shed, so that wasn't fun. But it was doing the same thing today. It wanted to start, just didn't want to stay running. So I think we're definitely gonna work on the carb right now. And the battery is sitting at 12.25, so it actually has decent voltage. So I think with the battery charge, that thing might be okay, at least enough to test and run this thing a bit. But yeah, let's get the cover off and see if we can get the carb. The carb looks pretty new, doesn't it? We got a little stink bug on top of it. A dead one. Just some grass packing. Can't really tell if that's a mouse nest. Doesn't really seem like it, but I guess it must be. Not really sure. Yeah, I wonder if that's a replacement carb. It looks like the gasket looks new. Something about it just doesn't look like the original carb to me. Looks too nice. But yeah, let's get the carb fully off this thing and get the bowl off. I bet we won't need to do too much to it. You can hear my shop little diesel heater, Amazon diesel heater. I can't believe that thing fired up after a year. This is just the second winter that I've owned it. I kind of thought it's sitting under my half-covered tarp that it might not turn on this winter, but it started right up. It looks great in there. I wonder if it's just water in the tank or something. I don't think much needs to be done here. It might have just had a little water in the bottom. I'm going to try to check some fuel that's sitting in the fuel line and see if there's water in that. All right. Just trying to get this fuel filter to kind of drain. It's just dripping a little bit. We'll see. It looks really bad. It's very cloudy. It almost looks like the whole thing is water. Like it's got, I don't know. Usually with water you can, if there's water in the fuel you can see like a bubble, but the whole thing almost looks like a bubble. It's weird. I don't know. Well, it's the next day, and I left the fuel line like that, and gasoline, that's all gasoline. It reeks in the shed right now. The gasoline just spilled out. It looks like it just kind of slowly dripped out. Yeah, complete fire hazard in the shed right now. Just kind of tuck that up in there somewhere. There we go. But what I was thinking of doing was trying to remove the rear fender here and get access to the tank and take the whole tank off and drain it, just because I'm pretty sure there's water in there. We're like one step closer to having it drained, but I still think it's a good idea to inspect the tank, drain it, probably redo all the fuel lines if I can, that sort of stuff, and then we'll know that we have a really good fuel system. And I think we're ready to take the fender off. You have a 1/2-inch nut there. I think you have two 10mm screws underneath that sticker. That I had to watch a video to figure out where those were. And then just the seat and the bracket, the spring, all that, I think is all you need to get the rest of it loose here. Alright, might have to take off the pedals. Yeah. Or maybe I can figure out a way to leave it like that. But still have a little bit of work. I'll show you. There's like a whole box around the fuel tank still. See, this whole thing is around the fuel tank. Here's our filler tube. Yeah, it's never easy. It turns out this isn't so bad. There's just 4 1/2-inch bolts. And then that top plate comes off, as you see. Nice. Yeah, the fuel tank is just sitting in there, so I should be able to remove that with the fender in place. I'll show you the foot controls and how they're in the way here. Yeah, so these controls here, there's a rectangular hole there, but I don't think you can get those out, at least. I haven't tried that hard, but I think we can get the tank out without having to undo at least the forward and reverse pedal. Probably gonna have to cut the line, which could make a big old mess, so just gotta figure something out here. Well, I just pulled a little too hard and I popped it off the nipple, so luckily I think that's all one solid piece, so I didn't damage anything. But we're loose. We can get that clean now. That's the next day after work. I just brushed off the tank a little bit and drained that out, so that's dry since yesterday. Here's a fuel line. It comes out easy. It actually runs along kind of like the rail or along the frame and goes, you know, kind of tucks under to go to the tank, and then tucks through the frame through a hole, and then comes out here to eventually go to the fuel pump. So we can just pull this out now, and we have the whole line. And seems pretty good, but I'm going to replace the whole thing, and then at least that way we can say we have new fuel line, and that shouldn't be a problem for anyone. And then we'll know for sure that, you know, there's no clogs or anything like that in the fuel system. We'll have the fuel system completely clean after this, and we'll assemble the whole thing. Okay, everybody, we are back together. I didn't film it all, but I put in new fuel lines and just hooked everything back up. So the tank was all the way dry, so we're just going to add a bunch of gas here. And let's see if the battery held a charge. It's been a couple days since actually, I don't think I've ever tried it without a jump pack, so. So it wants a jump pack, but the battery sounds like it. Yeah, it's bad, but we are picking up fuel. Okay, back in the shed after dinner with the family. Got the battery charger on it for that time. I don't know, we'll see what happens here. Oh, all right. doesn't seem like it wants to run when choke is off. So we might be getting back into that carburetor. But the mowing blades work. Seems like the mowing seems great. Seems like it drives a little slow, but I don't know. We don't have the carb quite right yet. So, hey, good news. It runs now. Well, I have the carb apart again, and I just took off this top plate. That is rather complex on the top end of this. I can't say I've ever worked on a carb that looked like this before. And it looks like it's brand new, almost like it's a replacement. And it might be, but very interesting carb design for sure. But I've just sprayed it out, and hopefully this will help. It wasn't idling. Actually, it was idling okay. It wasn't running at full throttle very well, especially under load. So it kind of wanted to operate on choke, and then I sort of fiddled with it enough where it wasn't on choke. It still wasn't running right. So I'm gonna keep trying with this carb since it looks so good, but I will replace it if we need to. Okay, hold up a minute. Now I'm just blowing things out, and I'm looking at this thing here, and I'm like, oh, this is rubber. Okay, that comes out, and there's a jet in there. That's probably the idle jet, the low circuit. What? There's no way that's supposed to be on there, right? I mean, it just can't be. I'm gonna have to try it without that. There's no way that's supposed to be there. I'm gonna clean that out, make sure it's clean, and I could remove it too. Let's see if I can remove the jet. But man, you ever seen that before? I have not. So that's what's come out of it. I know you can't really see it well, but yeah, it's a jet with, you know, at least 4 little tiny hole passages, and then of course the main passage on top. Yeah, there's no way that's supposed to be clogged with that rubber bit. I wonder if that's how the carb was shipped, and I mean, it's just crazy, right? All right, we'll give this a start up. Yeah, I found a way to bolt up the carburetor without, like, you're supposed to have the air box on it, and I know that it might run a little differently. Just a little bit, guys. And it should run. If it's gonna run well, it'll run well even without the air box. If it's running bad, you know, sometimes the air box makes a little bit of a difference. But I find if it's supposed to run right, it'll even run right without the air box. It will. So, well, let's give it a try. It won't even run without like full choke almost. So it got worse. Great. Okay, so I have it put back together, and I tuned the carb a little bit. It seems to work. carb off the machine again. It's just not running right. I've been doing some adjustment on this screw and it does something, but not enough. So I'm doing the unthinkable and replacing a replacement carb with a replacement carb. Yeah, that's gonna fix our problems. It might. I figured got to give it a try. I've been doing a lot of work off camera, can't get that to run right. So we're gonna slap another one on. For the price I paid for all this stuff, air filter, oil filter, fuel filter, spark plugs, fuel shutoff, fuel pump, I was like, man, you know, this carburetor is basically free, so why not? So let's do it. Let's put it on, see if that makes a difference. That's running a lot better. Let's see if it drives and mows without surging or stalling. And a little hard to see in there, but on the top of the carburetor you can see that brass screw. I was able to access that with a flathead screwdriver, and then right there in the center is the idle, so I was able to actually get both of those adjusted with the air filter on, which is ideal, even though I was saying before, like, you can get it to run, it should run without the air filter. But yeah, it does make a little bit of a difference, and maybe that was enough. Who knows? Okay, it is running a lot better, but it still sounds like it's not getting enough fuel when we have a full load on. It sounds okay even just with the blades engaged, but when you go to drive with the blades engaged, it sounds a little labored. I know it's running on 2 cylinders. I still think it's just a little bit of a carb adjustment, so I'm going to take it into the shop and adjust it one more time. Well, I've been trying to mess around with like the governor spring just to give it a little bit higher RPM, but that's not solving the issue. Basically what I'm discovering is it wants more fuel or less air. So if I give it some choke, just a little bit, the engine smooths out, it even mows better for a little while until it's running too long with, you know, too little air, and then it starts to want to shut off. So I think I'm going to return that spring to where it was and not have the RPMs go that high, because you can see like that idle wasn't very good, and I think our RPMs in general at full throttle are a little too high right now. I kind of want to mess with the jet of this one. So this was the carb that was on there, and I wonder if I can get it to just give us a little bit more fuel. Now that we have a parts carburetor, I don't feel too shy about doing that sort of thing. If I mess up one, I still got the other, you know. So I don't know, let's crack into this carb here and see what we can do. So here's the jet. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to try to widen it with a drill bit, and I don't know if I'll put it into that carburetor or just put this one on. I don't really know if it really matters, but essentially I'm just going to swap a jet and see if we can get us to have more fuel. Okay, I used this drill bit. I don't know what size it is, but I drilled it out, and now it's larger. So let's give it a try. Well guys, I think I actually did it. It really likes that chain. Jeez. Nope, we don't have it. What's wrong with this thing? And just because I'm curious, here's the new carb that came in the other day, and it has that rubber cap over what I think is the idle circuit. I don't know. Well, the original carb came in the mail, and guess what it has? I wasn't really going to film this because I was just going to clean this and put it on and tell you guys I got a new carb, or the old carb, whatever. But it has that rubber plug. I don't know. I guess that's how Kohler designed it, and I guess that's why the people who reproduced it put one in. But we're gonna put this back together. I just cleaned it a bit. It looks fine, and let's hope it runs. Well, it's got to be 2 weeks later now, and it doesn't come across on video. I know, like, getting the timing of these projects is a little hard to understand without me doing like a date stamp now and then, but we've been really stalled on this one. So yeah, it's been hard for me lately to get in the shed to get any work done on these machines, and when I come in here, I'm working on this Cub Cadet and I'm getting absolutely nowhere. I think I showed you that I bought a used original carburetor off eBay, and that came in. I think I opened it up for you guys. You got to see that it had that rubber stopper in there on one of the jets, and yeah, that's how that thing comes. Anyhow, I did install it. I ran the tractor. It runs nearly identical, maybe even worse than before. So, well, let me show you where I'm at with it. I don't know if you could tell, but I have the intake off because I'm just thinking there's got to be like a massive intake leak, right? Because it's running on full choke. So that means you either have too much air or not enough fuel. Well, I can't see why it wouldn't have enough fuel. There's no blockage, everything's working, the pump is working. I cleaned out, the tank and everything, ran new lines. There's just nothing wrong with the fuel system. And now I can't find a place where this might be leaking air because the intake looks good. So anyway, I was checking some online forums just to get some solution here, and I think I might have found something. So reading a lot, there seems to be a common problem with these Kohler twin 25s or anything similar to that in horsepower, is that the anti-backfire solenoid goes bad. Now, it's a little odd because it's actually not a problem with the solenoid itself, or at least a lot of people had this issue where it was actually the key switch. So that there was a problem with the key switch when you turn the key on, that it actually wasn't supplying power to the solenoid. And this is the problem I think I'm having because, well, I'm going to investigate it right now. We're going to find out. I've used 3 different carburetors. There's no way that we have 3 bad anti-backfire solenoids, right? Plus we've used 2 brand new ones basically. But I think this might be it. So there's a couple solutions I could do, right? I could just cut that little plunger. A lot of people do that, but I think there's a problem back maybe in my key switch. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to investigate both. Maybe I'll cut the plunger. Maybe I'll swap out the key switch. We'll see how hard either of those things are. But man, I really hope this is it because I can't get this thing to run right. And it's like one of those things where you're like, what do I do? Put a new engine on this thing? Oh, I forgot to tell you, I did the valves on it too. So I did the valves because I was like, yeah, maybe there's something wrong with the valves. That didn't do anything. So yeah, I'm at the point where it's like throw away the engine, which is just absolutely a ridiculous thing to say out loud because there's should be nothing wrong with this engine as far as like needing to throw it away. So we got to find out what it is. All right, enough talking. Let me just poke around a little bit. We'll see. I don't know what I'm going to do first, but I really hope that we solve this because, oh, I forgot to tell you. So when people solve this problem, whether it's the key switch or they cut the plunger, they said it runs mint. I can't wait for that. Let's hope. Okay, I have everything back together. There's a little steady click every couple seconds from the battery pack. Try to ignore that, but the solenoid is definitely clicking. So in some way our key switch is working properly. That's kind of a bad sign. I still wonder though if I cut that plunger. I mean, I might just do that. Yeah, I think that's what I might do here. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I could just take it out. This thing is like a disaster in there. Is it like broken? I'm just gonna remove it. Whoops, dropping things, but that's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna take that out. Let's reinstall it like that. Sorry, not like that. Whoa, there's a spring. Stuff's going everywhere, guys. All right, I got that spring. Actually found it. All right, we're gonna put it back like this, of course. All right, we'll get that all buttoned up for you guys. All right, well, it's running it absolutely terribly. It's like surging like the governor's not attached. And then it dies out. So I think I'm going to put the plunger back in, but just cut the needle portion off. I don't know. Okay, that plunger's back in, but still won't run. It wants full choke still. Let's get this battery pack. It wants choke so bad. Anything but full choke and it's dying. I don't get it. I don't know how to fix machines anymore. Okay, it's the next day and I'll explain this contraption in just a minute, but I think I figured it out. I'm not gonna say I fixed it yet because I gotta come up with a solution here, but I figured out the problem, and it is fuel delivery. So something's up with, now this is a new pump, so it's not the pump. Maybe there's a crack in this hose, but the pump is not working well, and the way I figured that out is by doing a gravity system. So yeah, I know there's a clamp and a fuel tank, just kind of disregard all that, but it's just holding up this auxiliary tank, and we're going fuel line directly in, and I just started it up and it runs great. So it runs You can see choke is off here. That's how I just had it. I have the air box off and some spacer nuts, and then the nuts holding it down on the posts there, because there's really no way to hold the carburetor on without the air box unless you rig up something like that. The threads on the posts aren't long enough to just thread in the normal bolts. You have to put some spacers on. I know, kind of confusing, but just bear with me there. All right, so we're gonna have to figure out why we're not getting enough vacuum to actually operate the pump. I'll show you all that in a minute. Here's the fuel line coming off the pump, and you'll see when I hook everything back up just like how little fuel is coming out, and that perfectly explains our situation over here. Really wild. Anyway, let's fire it up so you guys can see it run well finally, and then I'll hook up the vacuum pulse line there, and I'll show you how little fuel is coming out. Well, I took this little tube off from the valve cover, and there's nothing wrong with it. It would have been really nice for this storyline if there was just a good slit or crack in here, and I just needed to replace that. But that's not the case. I don't really know. I wonder if the grommet over on the fuel tank is no good. I'm about to like blow into this fuel line to see, you know, just how easily fuel flows back and forth. I don't really know. I mean, we can always install like an electric fuel pump. That would probably do it. But there's no way to like officially get a gravity system going on this. We're gonna need a fuel pump system somehow. And I mean, I just imagine this problem is solvable, so that's good at least. I'm glad the carb works. Kind of feel bad that I cut the anti-backfire solenoid, but whatever. So yeah, we're gonna figure it out, I think. All right, so here's the fuel line. I can't even blow into it. I figured I'd get bubbles. Man, you know, I just thought of that now. I wonder if it's the fuel cap. Wow, I can't suck fuel out or blow anything in. That's me sucking on it as hard as I can do, and we got no fuel. So I wonder if I kinked a line. Is this all my fault? I hope it's something easy like that. From everything I can see from the fuel line going back to the tank, everything looks good. Nothing's kinked, so I think I'm gonna take this rear fender off again. Maybe it's that grommet. I really don't know, but something's not right, and I think everything's right up front now. It's got to be something back towards the tank. All right, just pulled the tank here, and I don't know if I can show this on film well, but yeah, we're just barely getting anything to come out of the tank. Boy, it's not even a grommet. Look at that. I don't know if you can tell. I'm filming so poorly right now, guys. Might just be clogged. I don't know. We'll blow some air through it. There we go. We got movement now. Huh. Yep, we can blow through it now. That's crazy. And I had this tank off all along. I could have checked this, I guess, but yeah, it's blowing through nice and free now. All right, well, there's a little bit of gas in here. We'll clean it. We'll dump that out, and see what debris was in there. All right, we're put back together here. It was dead bugs, clogged with a lot of bugs. I'm sure many of you guys have seen that before. Somehow or another, bugs get in the gas tank. Obviously they die right away, but they float to the bottom and they clog the output. Been using a new jump pack, GREPRO, I don't know. What's it called? I was hoping the case would help me out. You can read that. Okay, it works great. And it's got an air compressor. Yeah, and it's got the easiest button for boost that I've worked with. You don't have to like hold anything real hard. You could get that with your gloves on. I actually really like it. It's not a very big one, whatever, 6,000, but seems to work well. Okay, we're gonna fire this thing up. I think it's gonna start up relatively quickly now that we have good fuel flow. When I had the gas tank off, I even checked the trans fluid because, you know, we're that kind of mechanic now. And the fluid was topped off perfectly, so we're good on the transmission. That's something you really couldn't test or check without having the gas tank off. So since I did it twice, might as well go all the way and check all the fluids. We got fuel in the filter. Back on camera again to try to explain some things. So a lot of cranking, the thing wouldn't run right. I noticed that the carb was flooding out, so I thought maybe the solenoid was the problem because I had cut it. I don't know, I was just trying to think of something. So I took a solenoid from one of the aftermarket carbs that I had, put it on this original carburetor that I bought off eBay, put it back on the machine, still wouldn't run. So I'm just scratching my head thinking, it seems like the carb is dirty. I don't know. So I took the carb apart, and sure enough, there was a little piece of grit in the float. So I put it back together. I hit the key, it fired right up. So you guys missed it, but I'm gonna do it again for you. I have everything put back together once again, and I think we finally figured it out. Yeah, it runs now. I'm not even gonna pretend I didn't get it started off camera. All right, here's the deal. And yes, there's a snow blower in the background. But remember how I said the carburetor was flooding? Well, there was a lot of gas in the intake and it took a bit of cranking, but finally, you know, it was like doing one of those chug, 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 chug. Finally took off, you know, it took a while, but it was really flooded out. So it's running great now. We solved it for sure. That was the issue. We had a clogged gas tank. Amongst carburetor problems, I'm sure, but you know, hard to tell, really. Hard to tell if the gas tank was the problem all along and the original owner was having trouble because of the clogged gas tank, or if that's something that happened later on when I got it. Too many ways to think about it, but in the end, you know, it's really great that we have all new fuel lines, cleaned out tank. We have an original carburetor back on this thing. Anti-backfire solenoid is functioning. You know, really this thing is legit now and it's back to normal, and I like that. I'm happy about that. So let me show you how this thing starts up, because it is running great. It does have a very dead battery, as you all know, but it should start up for us. So we're back in the shed. Nothing wrong with it. We're just gonna give it a service. So I have oil, an oil filter, and an air filter for it. So we'll do all that before we put it away for winter. I know the whole video, I bet you guys are like, why don't you just get a good battery for it? Well, because it's December and this thing's gonna sit for a couple months, and I don't want to put a brand new battery in this thing and then just go park it. I know everyone's, bring your batteries inside. I have too many tractors. I'm not bringing my batteries inside. I'm just dealing with it. I'll wait until spring and we'll get a good battery for this thing, and I'll keep an eye on that carb. There's a couple other things I'm going to do to this thing, and I might even consider painting the deck and things like that. I think there's an idler underneath for the drive that's a little noisy, and I might swap that out. I'm just not taking off the deck right now. I did buy a grass deflector for it, so we do have that, which is nice. I have it off for many reasons. It's just wide enough to get in and out of my shed as it is, so I'll wait to put that thing on. But yeah, let's give this thing a service. And you know, in the spring, I don't even think I'll film it with you guys, but I'll clean it all up. It needs headlights, sharpened blades, all that sort of stuff. But for a wintertime video, this is about all you're gonna get. So it's 1 week later now, and that was not really intentional, but this will be the ultimate test to see if this carburetor is still flooding. I actually don't think it is anymore. So let's see what's going to happen here. This is a real cold start. And that's all we're gonna do with this thing for now. Last thing I wanted to do was just put that grass deflector on, just because it's just hanging out in my shed, taking up space. Well, the whole thing was taking up space. But yeah, we're parking it back here down by the creek. A couple of snowmobiles that are ready to go up north. This beater one's gonna stay here. That one's gonna go up north too. There's the Cub Cadet from the last video, the big project. Got another Cub Cadet that probably could come into the shed right away. But yeah, now we have three, which is kind of nice. Probably we'll end up selling these two almost right away when spring hits. So I'll just do a little bit of work to that 50-inch one, and you know, it just needs to be polished up, and I gotta inspect the deck and things like that. I told you about that. But yeah, we'll do a little bit of springtime work to it, but this will be a pleasure to work on in the spring because it's all done. It just needs to look nice. So yeah, we have a bunch of these green Craftsmans. This one, I got this one a long time ago and was thinking of doing like as much of a full restoration as I can, at least like making it look ridiculously nice. I don't know, it's been sitting here for a while now. Yeah, that one needs engine work. So yeah, we have some stuff. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. I had a lot of fun with this project. This was a free tractor I just couldn't turn down. That's a nice Cub Cadet with a big engine, 50-inch mowing deck. Who could say no? But I hope you appreciated the footage of me pulling this off of my friend's neighbor's lawn. That was quite a rescue mission, and a lot of fun to see this thing finally turn around into being a reliable machine again. But yeah, I'm glad that we ended up putting an original carburetor on this thing. It deserves it, and everything is back to being in spec, which I know you guys like. And you know, no one really likes those aftermarket carburetors. The dog's pulling me right now. The water's nice and high. We've been having a lot of rain. But now we have original carb, cleaned out fuel system, all new lines, serviced engine, all that sort of stuff, new filters. So things running great now, and it survived a full week of just sitting there. Started right up, wasn't flooded, so I'm not worried about that carburetor, needle, and seat anymore. I think we're good to go. And you know, the real test will be how does it fire up come springtime. So we'll see. All right, guys, have a great day. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, share, tell your friends about Kyle by the Creek, and I'll catch you guys on the next tractor video.